Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this really special event for us. We're very excited to present you today with some of the new features that was released this morning, and hopefully this will transform kind of like the way you trade and you analyze the market. Before we get started, please let us know if you can hear us. Send us a comment and let me know if you guys can see the screen and hear us, and then we get started. All right, so what we're going to do today, this is a very, very brief agenda. So I'm going to give you an introduction of my background. We're going to talk about how finance has changed and why data matters, because what we're going to show you later is really how we can now, as retail investors, leverage a data-driven approach to be successful and invest like the institutions. We're going to talk about how institutional investings and retail traders are different, and what are the challenges for you guys, for retail traders, and why are institutions really outperforming the markets, and why is now relevant to see what we now develop to fill kind of this gap. We're going to show you our value proposition and our mission. Why did we create MenthorQ? And then we're going to go into our new products. So we're going to show you what we have today. We're going to show you some use cases, and then we're going to introduce you to our new tools, our new dashboard. We're going to give a live demo. And then, of course, we have a special promo for everyone, and, of course, a Q&A at the end. So let's get started, right? So first, let's talk about my background first. For those who don't know me, I'm Fabio. I'm the CEO and founder of MenthorQ. I started working in finance in 2007, and I started working at Bloomberg. So, of course, everybody knows Bloomberg is the leader in kind of like the data market. And, of course, that was a very great experience for me because I joined 2 months before the first credit crisis. So it was a very interesting period. I started working, and then obviously Lehman Brothers collapsed, and obviously we know what happened after. But basically, like, my career started in London. I then moved to the US in New York in 2014. And during those 11 years where I was at Bloomberg, I had the opportunity to really work with the largest banks, largest investors in the world. I was covering hedge funds. I was covering large organizations. So I got really a very important feel on how the market, or the finance market, works. After that, I decided to actually join a startup, and I moved into more the alternative data space. And we're going to talk about alternative data in the presentation, where I was selling data to hedge funds. So large organizations, large hedge funds that really started to embracing data into their investment strategy. And that really helped me understand how finance is now evolving, right? And it was very clear at that time, I was there for about 3 years, that there was a very big gap between institutional investors and retail traders. Not only for data, for the know-how and whatever is possible at the institutional level, but obviously how large firms are starting to leverage in quantitative models to gain an edge in the market, right? And that's when we started MenthorQ. The goal of MenthorQ, when we started this after COVID, is really to bring institutional grade insights to individual traders and being able to simplify them and making sure that they are actionable so that you can actually make smarter decisions in less time and be able to be more actionable, because everybody wants to trade now. We want to be successful, but we struggle because we don't have access to the same tools that maybe institutions have. So today we're going to show you how retail traders can now invest and what's the difference between the way institutions are leveraging data. So let's go first to a very, very short overview on how finance has changed in the past 20 years, right? So in the early 2000s, fundamental analysis really was the way to invest, right? So you look for a company that has strong fundamentals and you invest with the goal of obviously having a price appreciation. Obviously, post 2007, especially after COVID, this strategy did not really work because there was so much liquidity in the market that really companies with even bad fundamentals were really skyrocketing to the moon because of all the liquidity that we saw post 2007. We also need to understand how finance have changed. So now we see that about 75% of trading volume is now driven by algorithms. In 2021, for the first time in history, option volume actually surpassed equity volume, right? So it was the first time in history. This was a very, very big moment. And this is why also we started really investing into the option market. Market makers and hedging strategies are now influencing price like never before, right? So knowing how market makers are hedging and what are the levels that you should be watching for is very, very important. And then, of course, alternative data is becoming more and more important. And we're going to show you some example. And of course, the change in technology, AI, data-driven strategies have now proven to be more effective, right? So we see how kind of like things have changed in the last 20 years since I joined finance in 2007. This has really changed dramatically in maybe 15 years or so. Then we want to show this chart, and we show it in a lot of presentation that we do, because it's very important to understand that the option volume is really increased a lot since the early 2000s. And of course, COVID brought a lot of importance in option volume. 2021 was a very key year for options, but as we can see, like 2024 was actually the highest option volume that we've seen over the past 20 years. So the trend is really strong. So today we're going to talk about options. We're going to talk about option models. As a retail trader, if you don't start adapting and using this data, you're going to be left behind, because a lot of the trading strategies are going to evolve, and obviously options is going to be a key part of investing. We're going to show you some example during the course of the presentation. Then we see one of the biggest change is the rise in alternative data, right? What is alternative data? So when I was working at Bloomberg, I would consider the data that Bloomberg delivered traditional data, whether it's pricing data, news data, financial statement, and all of that. Data that is now really a commodity because it's very widely accessible. But what about alternative data, right? We're going to give you some example. Alternative data is anything that is not really widely accessible to the retail world, but where there's a lot of value from the data. So institutions are no longer only relying on earnings report or news report or technical indicators, right? But instead, they start analyzing really vast data sets. For example, option market. This is like a very big data set that we leverage and we use to create insights. But what about liquidity areas like trading patterns? But here in the slide, you actually see a lot of different companies that are delivering a very interesting data set: geolocation data, credit card information, satellite information, right? So there's a lot of really companies that are now being born, and they've really been born in the last less than 10 years to deliver insights to institutional investors. And let's make a couple of examples. So let's look at this part of the section. Here we have geolocation data, right? So geolocation data, how do you use that data? So you can use that to forecast revenue shifts in companies ahead of earnings, right? So let's say that we look at traffic information for the past years and analyze like companies like Starbucks, right? So we can see that Starbucks has thousands of stores across the US. What if you could monitor and track real-world traffic to Starbucks location? So people that are actually going to Starbucks to have coffee, right? What if you could overlay this with web traffic data, right? And notice like shift in what's happening, right? And suppose that we observe a consistent decline in traffic or in visits of people to Starbucks location over the past 3 months, right? This could become an indicator of weaker sales and a potentially negative earnings for Starbucks, right? So this is kind of like how you can use this data to then invest in a company like Starbucks by analyzing trends and by analyzing patterns coming from alternative data. We have another example. Let's say that we have access to historical app usage data across millions of devices, right? Where we can monitor active daily users, the session length of the app, and we start looking at trends. So let's say that we are looking at companies like Snapchat, right? And let's say that in the past 3 months, we've seen a decline in active user engagement by 8% month on month, right? Or let's take an example of Netflix, and let's see that we can see that more people are watching less. So we are watching less content on Netflix. So what does this tell us? This could be a signal of a weaker revenue for Snapchat, for example, and could be a signal of higher churn for Netflix subscribers, right? Because we are watching less Netflix, so therefore maybe we will cancel our membership. So that could be a very, very important insight that you could use ahead of earnings to place a bet on a company like Snapchat or Netflix. Of course, in the retail world, this data is inaccessible, it's very expensive, so it's very, very difficult for a retail investors to be able to access this kind of insights. But this is where finance is going, and this is why all these companies have been created. They're very successful, and they generate a lot of revenue. So the point of this is that really institutions are leveraging alternative data, AI, quantitative models to generate alpha. Alpha means an excess of return to what the benchmark could do. So if you're looking at the SPX, you want to generate more returns, so you want to generate a better alpha than the index. So the problem is that as retail traders, we're a bit left behind, right? So we have a lack of institutional grade data. We still rely on technical indicators that are kind of like traditional, but everybody's using that. So there's not really a lot of key advantage that you can derive from that. And then, of course, we are missing out on the opportunity coming from alternative data. And today we're going to talk about options, right? We're going to talk about that. So this is why we come in. So this is why we created MenthorQ. This is why we believe we can provide a lot of value, because with our tools, and we're going to show you what we've developed today, we can start identifying important key reaction zones, right? Where institutions are coming in and moving the market. We can use our gamma levels to predict volatility shifts, and then we can start leveraging our quant model to define our setups, to simplify the way we read the market in a few minutes or few seconds a day, right? That's the whole goal of what we do. So we are basically trying to solve the problem of providing you with actionable data-driven insights that can help you trade like an institution, of course, at a fraction of the cost. And basically, our philosophy relies on three main principles. First, obviously, data. We are leveraging a data-driven approach. We ingest a lot of data. We use AI. We use a lot of different tools, machine learning models, to be able to take in a lot of really complex information and then simplify this data, and finally create actionable signals that you as a retail trader can use to make decisions, right? The way we do this is in three simple steps. One, our quantitative models. Quantitative models are charts, are tables that help us basically generating signals from data. In this case, we're talking about options, we're talking about futures data. But basically, each model is really designed to provide like market intelligence by leveraging our proprietary insights. And the goal is really to give you access to actionable data where you can make very, very fast decisions, and you can actually make better trading and investment decisions. The second step is really, okay, we have this data, we have these really amazing quant models. How can we help you simplify and access to this data, right? So we started with a Discord subscription. Today, we are presenting our new trading dashboard. The trading dashboard will help you leverage our insights and will help you basically create your daily routine. And we're going to show you how we can do that. So we're very excited. The team really worked around the clock. The dashboard was released this morning. It looks amazing. And we're going to give you a demonstration in a very, very few minutes. And then finally is how can you then integrate the data into the platform that you use, for trading. So today we're going to show you some of our integrations. So we are integrating with 10 plus applications. We are releasing today the new integration with MotiveWave. We're going to have a short video on that. And we also released our new TradingView indicator. So TradingView is, of course, the most used platform in the world, but we also integrate with platforms like Sierra Chart, NinjaTrader, Bookmap, Quant Tower, Atas, Thinkorswim, etc. So we're going to show you how this works. During the course of the week, we're going to also have a session on integrations, but for today, we're going to show you the new ones, MotiveWave and TradingView. All right. So next, we want to share a tweet that we posted this week. This is a video coming from Cliff Asness, Chief Investment Officer of AQR Capital Management. AQR is one of the largest hedge fund in the world, and this is really interesting because uh, even though technology is existing, based on what Cliff says, the market actually has become less efficient than in the past. So even though we have a lot of technology, we see like less efficiency in the market. So that's why like it's very important that you start embracing the data and data-driven insights, because there's a lot of opportunities that you can capture, even though technology is evolving. So this is what, for example, AQR Chief Investment Officer has posted recently, and we reposted this on Twitter this week. All right. Before we go, we're gonna stop here a few seconds. Before we go into our current products and the use cases, we want to remind everyone that we're very excited for this launch, and this is a really good opportunity for those who want to join. If you like what you see today, to join our membership. This is available for you, so you can go to our website. In our pricing page, you can see the link at the bottom, and you can subscribe to our monthly, yearly plan of our premium or our pro membership. The difference between premium and pro is really that within the pro membership, we are also giving you access to our coaches, our mentors. We do 2 live tradings per week, and we also have monthly strategy sessions. So if you guys join today, you can also get access as a special bonus to 2 live trading sessions with our mentors and professional traders. So those are traders with 20 plus years experience that will show you not only how to trade using strategies, but also how to better leverage the data that we provide with our premium service into like a real life pro trader would use the data. So this is available for you guys. All right, we're going to go into questions also at the end, so please send them over. So let's look at basically what we provide currently, and then we're going to go into our new development. So we provide coverage on stocks, ETFs, indices, futures, and crypto. We are the only company that also provides gamma levels on futures by looking at futures options. So that's like a very big key differentiator for us. And basically, in the next few months, we are also going to start covering European futures like the DAX or the Euro stocks and the spot crypto options. So looking at actually not the futures data, but looking at the actual spot crypto. In terms of product, we basically already provide access to our quant models. We're going to show you some of those, some of the new stuff that we are doing. We also have access to our gamma levels, our blind spots levels, our swing trading levels. We also integrate, as we saw, with 10 plus applications, and we also have a very extensive academy with about 500 hours. So by subscribing to premium, you can access all the academy. And then, of course, with our pro membership, we also give you access to our trading coaching. So if you want to be actionable and learn from professional, you can also access those sessions. But let's go into who uses MenthorQ. So who is our customer, and how can MenthorQ be used? So the first thing is a futures trader, right? So if you are a futures trader trading NQ, ES, CL, you can use our gamma levels on futures to be able to be actionable in the market. If you are a stock trader, you can use our levels, but you can also use our models by looking at positioning, right? If you are a swing trader, so let's imagine that you are not live in the market, you're not day trading, and you want to just use data to potentially build 20 days position or maybe longer term position, you can also use our data. If you are an option trader, you can use MenthorQ. And of course, if you are a day trader, you can use our levels, our indicators to be actionable in the market. Let's look at some use cases. So these are some examples taken from last week. So last week we saw a very big sell-off, and then we also saw like a massive rebound towards the end of the week. So this is a screenshot of our gamma levels from Friday. So if we look at the NQ, in this case, we can see basically how the price kind of stopped at one of our key levels coming from our option data. And obviously, if you miss the first entry you could have got a really nice opportunity later in the day, and the price just skyrocketed all the way to our 1-day max, closing right below the 1-day max. Right, so this was a 400-point move on NQ. So very, very crazy moves right off our levels. This is an example by looking at treasury bond futures, right? So this is coming from Friday. Again, we saw also this a very important move coming from our put support all the way to our core resistance, so from level to level. So this is, if you are a bond future trader, again, this is levels that you can use on your chart every morning. If you are a forex trader, these are the levels on the Euro FX future. Again, from 1-day max all the way to our JAX level. This is data coming from Friday, so you guys could have access all these levels, and they update every day. If you are a stock investor, so if you trade stocks, or if you even do options on stocks, let's look at a couple of examples, right? So last week we saw CRM, so Salesforce reported earnings. Earnings were bad. Obviously, we saw kind of like a decline. So before the earnings, what you see at the top right is our SKEW chart. We can see that we were in a very, very put bias environment. So here at the top, and you could have used that to understand the sentiment before the earnings. We were also in this is by looking at our Q score at the bottom right. We're going to present this in a second. We were in a very high volatility environment, so that could have been a good strategy to use options. Low momentum, and of course neutral seasonality. And then we can look at our swing model right there, right? So we can look at our swing levels. The market dropped, but as you can see, basically the market did not go past our lower band levels. So if you were, for example, an option trader and you wanted to use spreads, you could have used our model to forecast where the price could be at the end of the week. So this is the levels for Friday. The stock, even though we had bad earnings, did not close below the levels that you see here on the chart right there. So kind of like these are like three of the models that could have helped you understand what could have happened with a company like Salesforce reported earnings, and of course Nvidia, right? So what you see here, and we're going to present this, is the Q score on Nvidia, where we see our seasonality chart. As you can see, when we had a very positive seasonality, this was the start of a new rally a few weeks ago. And now we went in negative seasonality that kind of like anticipated the strong downside move that we saw last week. You can also overlay that with our SKEW chart. As we can see, there was a very, very put bias environment ahead of the earnings. Of course, the market was worried. They were bidding on put protection. And as you can see, kind of like you see how the chart moved towards the end of the week. Although the market drop, we can also now look at our swing levels, and we can see that basically they were actually respected. So even though we were in a very negative kind of like environment right there, the swing levels actually provided like a very strong support toward the end of the week. So this is kind of like how you can kind of build a routine, kind of build an idea on how to leverage kind of data if you are a stock trader. All right. So let me pause there, and then we're going to go into our new tools. Let's see if we have any questions. All right. So today, this is, we're going to go into our new tools. So what we're going to show you today is some new quant models. We're going to go into our new dashboard. We're going to introduce you to our Q score. Q score is going to be a game changer for the retail world. We're very excited about that. And then we're going to show you some quant strategies that we built around our Q score. And then we're going to go at the end into our new trading integrations, right? So let's start first with the Actually, let's go into our demo first. All right. So for those who join and for those who are actually already customer, you might have already accessed the dashboard. Basically, once you log into your account, you will find the dashboard right here under the app section. You can also find all our tutorials, so all our academies here, and all our guides are here. So the guides will help you basically understand all our models. So we have a guide, really, we have a lot of guides. We have about 150 to 100 documents here, and you guys can access them. We have videos, tutorials, and so on. Once you get access to the app, basically this is the new layout. Very excited about this, and we're going to give you a demonstration. So we have data on indices, ETFs, and stocks. We have data on futures. We also have our quant models. So for those who are looking at CTAs, quantitative strategies, volatility strategies, you can find our quant models right here. This is models that are only available to institutions. So if you, for example, are an institutional trader, you would have the CTS model from Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. We also provide you with the same kind of level of models. So if you want to learn more, we're not going to spend too much time on the CTAs today, but we also have really advanced quant models that you can use here. So here, for example, are some charts that you can use by analyzing the SPX, some momentum chart. They're all available here. But we're going to focus more on the new dashboard, and we're going to focus more on the indices, the stocks, and the futures. So within the new dashboard, we're going to look for first on how to create a watch list, and then we're going to start creating our dashboard with all our models. So in order to create a watch list, very, very simple, just type in a ticker, click on the plus sign, and then basically this will be added on the right-hand side. Let's add a few more. Let's also add some ETFs. So we're going to add QQQ, we're going to add SPY. Then we're going to add another one. We're going to add the VIX. All right, so as we add more stuff, so obviously you set it up once, and then this will be saved on your profile. We can basically define the order of our models. We can also define the order of the different sections. So we have equities, indices, ETFs. We can change the order right there, and we can also resize it. We can also minimize it right here. So if you want to use less space, and then simply by clicking on the watch list, this will open up the dashboard for that stock, ETF, or index. And then we're going to go now at how you can customize that. So I start from scratch, so you might already see some data here, but I want to show you how you can quickly create your dashboard, how you can quickly create a routine, and then we're going to go into our scoring and some of our other stuff like our screeners and so on. So let's go and add a command here. So this is really where you will access all our quantitative models and charts. They're all here. You can see immediately what they represent. We also have documentation. So let's, for example, add our NetJax chart. So we're going to add it here. By clicking on the three dots, you can basically refresh the data, read the guide, or delete the component, right? So let's add a few more. I'm going to add my option matrix right here. Then I'm going to add my swing models. I'm going to add my SKEW. And then what you see here are the new Q score. So we're going to go into more details in a second. But basically here you see the current data, but we also now have access to our different scoring options right here. So you can actually open up the chart that I showed you in the previous slides and have it there historically, so you can compare basically the different score and how they work compared to the past price. At the top here, you can also go back in time. So you can actually go back up to 6 months. So you can see, for example, if you want to do some back testing, you can go back in time, and let's say that you want to see, okay, how was the data in the previous earning of NVIDIA? You can go back in time there. All right. Then once we have the modules that we like, once we have our models, you can actually zoom in, and then we can start resizing that. So let's say that I want to have my SKEW all the way at the top here. I can move it around, I can change the order, I can basically customize it, and this will take you maybe a few minutes on the first time, but once you have it, then this will be saved on all the tickers that you have. So very, very easy. You set it up once, you set up your workflow, you set up your daily routine, this will be there for you, and this will stay fixed on your settings. All right. On top of that, we also have our futures dashboard. So if you, for example, trade futures, you can come here and you can also add those to your watch list. So let's say that I want to trade gold, I can open gold, and here we're looking at futures options, so very, very important. This is not converted, is actually futures options. This would be our net gamma exposure chart of our April contract, I believe it is, and then here you can have it. And again, you can also look for all the different models that are available for futures. So like, for example, our momentum score, our volatility score, and so on. And you can add that to your chart there. If we go back to our stocks, we also now created our intraday dashboard, right? So we now have intraday data. We have 9 different snapshots per day. If we want to learn where they are, can come in here and look at the intraday gamma models. And let's look at the updates. So we start updating the data 7:45, then we have a 9:35 update, 10:30, all the way to 3:30, right? So 9 snapshots per day. Those will also be available here. So this is, again, starting from scratch. Let's load our default commands right here. And now we are looking at the SPX. Here we see we have our 10:30 snapshot. And then here we have a lot of different tools. Let's say that we want to go back. We can click on the chart and simply go to the previous snapshot. So if you want to understand, okay, what has changed at the JAX level from 7:45 this morning all the way to now, you can kind of like move around very quickly and access the data. And you can do that exactly with all the different charts that we have. So for example, this is very interesting. This is showing you the JAX difference on SPX from 7:45 to 9:35. So we opened and we had a lot of positive gamma, but now from 9:35 to 10:30, we have a lot of negative gamma. And then we can go into our charts and we can actually see how that could impact basically the stock or asset that we're looking for, right? And we can do the same thing on any of the asset that we cover. So once we have our dashboard set up, then we can click on NVIDIA right there and we can do exactly the same thing. So what happened at the open? So at the open, we had some positive. At 7:45, we were still kind of like in a positive environment, and then we opened, and then from 7:45 to 9:35, we saw a lot of negative gamma there, and this is kind of continuing at 10:30. So we can monitor this throughout the day. We can go back in time, so we can go and look at historical data, and we can do the same exact thing on all the assets that I have here on my dashboard. All right, so we're gonna look at integration at the end of the presentation. Another tool that you guys have access to is our screeners. So within our screeners, we allow you to screen for different criteria. We're also going to release some Q-score screeners in the next product iteration. But for now, what you can access is our gamma screeners, our gamma levels, our open interest, volatility, and volume. So let's say that you like trading one of our levels or more or a few of our levels, now you have our core resistance screener, right? So you can see basically assets that are approaching the core resistance, right? And you can get some ideas. But let's also say that I want to see gamma change. So I want to see the highest change in gamma compared to the previous day. So we now have a screener that can tell you, okay, there's been a lot of positive change in gamma since last Friday on SPX, or actually from Friday to Thursday last week. So we can see the highest change in JAX. We can also see the total open interest and all of this data, and you can basically really have a lot of access to data. So simplifying the read of the market right there. All right. Let's see if we get some questions. So let me know, guys, if you have questions. All right. I'm going to go over them in a second. But basically, this is really what you can now do with the dashboard. So you have our intraday data, you have our end of day, you have our Q score right here, and you also have our Q score chart. And we're going to go into details on those in a second as well. All right, let's go back to here, and let's go back to some of our models, some of the new models that have been developed. The first one is what we call the volatility smile. The volatility smile is really a term to describe the relationship between implied volatility and strike prices of options within the same expiration date. It's normally it looks like a U-shaped curve, and it can be plotted on a graph where the x-axis are the strike prices and the y-axis are the implied volatility. The volatility smiles can be used by option traders to benefit from implied volatility shift across time and to plan for strategy using volatility. This week, we're going to have a dedicated section about how to trade volatility. We're going to be with Ryan, which is an ex-market maker. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be on Thursday. The next model that we are introducing is the future price curve. A future price curve really plots the prices of future contracts for a future. In this case, we're looking at crude oil across various expiration dates. And the way traders can use the curve is really to analyze whether the market can be in contango or backwardation, and how things have changed in the past, right? So if you are in a contango environment, this situation occurs when future prices are higher than the spot price, which signals that the market expects the price of the commodity to increase over time. If the curve shows a steady increase in price as the contract date extends, it may be an indicator of an expected increase in crude oil prices in the futures, for example. So maybe traders can use this data to start putting positions, whether you're long or short, or using spreads across expiration. If you're in a backwardation environment, that means that current future prices or future prices are lower than the spot price, indicating that traders expect the price of a commodity to decrease in the future. And if the future price is lower than the spot price, and the curve kind of shows a downward slope, then that can signal an expectation of a decrease in future crude oil prices in the future. So again, traders can use that by trading long or short, or they can also use spreads to potentially leverage that data. Another model, which is not new, but it's been revamped and redesigned, is our SKEW model. Option SKEW typically refers to the pattern of implied volatility across different strike prices and expiration dates, and it kind of describes how the implied volatility of options varies depending on whether we are at the money, in the money, or out of the money. The ones that we plot right here is our risk reversal SKEW, which is our 25 delta SKEW. And what this chart shows you is basically how the SKEW change over time, whether we are in a put bias, so in a bearish kind of like sentiment environment, which you see here on the red, where the SKEW is at the top, or if it was on a call bias, then the line would be at the bottom, right? So what does this mean, right? So if we are in a bullish sentiment or in a bullish environment, um, we see a lower implied volatility for calls. So if the implied volatility of a 25 delta call option is lower than the 25 delta put option, it suggests that maybe the market is less concerned about the significant upward moves, and this indicates maybe a more stable or moderately bullish outlook. But if we see kind of like the skew actually being more steeper, where we see a lot of activity around calls, that might indicate that the market really thinks that there could be a very strong bullish sentiment, where the implied volatility of calls is much higher than the implied volatility of out of the money puts, right? And the opposite goes if we are in a bearish environment. So the way we use skew is to understand how market participants are looking for protection, or they are betting on potential move on the asset. It's both a sentiment indicator, it's both a volatility indicator. And again, this week, we're going to show you how to use the skew on Thursday with Ryan. All right, and this brings us to our Q score. So this is a new model that is being released today, and we are super excited about this. And we're going to show you what it is. We're going to show you what it represents, and then we're going to go into details. So essentially, why did we develop the Q score? The Q score has the goal of giving you an immediate snapshot of the asset that you trade. So let's imagine that you're trading NVIDIA or you're trading futures. When you log into our dashboard, you're going to have an immediate snapshot of what the outlook for that asset is. And we built the Q score basically looking at 4 key factors: momentum, seasonality, volatility, and options, right? So let's go into the different scores. So when we look at the Q score momentum model, right, this reflects the underlying trend and the strength of the underlying asset, right? So the model really analyzes price actions, uses technical indicators to determine whether an asset can be in a bullish or bearish momentum. So a higher momentum score suggests strong positive price action, while a lower score indicates weakness or potential downside pressure. And basically, the score is from 0 to 5. So 0 means that we are in a very bearish momentum, 3 is a neutral momentum, and 5 is a bullish momentum. And then what we show you in the chart, so at the top, you see the price of the asset, and at the bottom, you see the historical price action of the score. So you can actually see what happened in the past when we had a very strong score or a very low score. All right. Now let's go into seasonality, right? So the seasonality model looks at the historical performance of an asset. We are using 20 years of historical data, and the model really examines the price behavior of the asset for the next 5 days. And then we create a score that goes from -5 to 5, where -5 is a low seasonality or bearish seasonality by looking at the next 5 days. 0 is a no seasonality, and 5, or from 0 to 5, is kind of like a high seasonality or bullish seasonality. And basically, by leveraging the seasonality scores, as a trader, you can kind of anticipate a potential price movement based on obviously past performance, and then create strategies. And we're going to show you some of our strategy as well in a few moments. And the trend is the forward-looking 5 days. All right. The next is our volatility score. So we measure the magnitude of price fluctuation of an asset, and basically we assess realized volatility to determine the likelihood of price swings. And the volatility score goes from 0 to 5, where 0 is a low volatility environment, which suggests like a very minimal price movement or obviously a low volatility, and 5 is a high volatility environment, which can indicate some large price fluctuations, right? So you can combine, for example, the volatility scores with metrics like IV rank, implied volatility, to identify potential volatility arbitrage if you're trading options, or you could define whether you want to be long option, short option, and so on. So selling premium or buying premium. And finally, our option Q-score option model ranks an asset based on activity coming from the option market, providing insights on sentiment and expected price direction. And the score goes from 0, which is a very bearish sentiment coming from the option market, to 5, which is a very strong bullish sentiment coming from the option market. So you can combine basically all the Q scores coming from option momentum to understand basically how to read the market. So the Q score can be used for trend confirmation. So you could use, for example, our momentum score alongside our option score to validate if we are in a bullish or bearish trend. You can look at seasonal patterns. So you could leverage our seasonality score to identify historical strong or weak period for an asset. So we typically tend to see that seasonality is very important, especially if you're trading things like commodities or indices. Then you have volatility-based strategies. So you can actually use our volatility and option score to kind of understand whether you are in a trend following environment, in a low volatility environment, and obviously if you are better off by selling options or buying option. And together with things like IV rank and so on, you can actually define if you want to be a buyer or a seller. And finally, we can look at the option market. So we can look at our option score to understand sentiment and potential shift coming from market positioning, which obviously is at the core of our technology. So those scores are very, very important. All right, so there's a questions. So the scores are daily, so they update once a day. So you'll be able to find them every day. They will update. So yeah, they are daily scores. And yeah, the scores work for both futures, equities, indices, and ETFs. Yeah. All right. So next is we're going to go into our quant strategies. So we've built strategies on the back of our scores, and I'm going to show you where you can find information. So if we go back to our website, if you go within our guides, go under strategy. So here we have quant strategies. We have some backtesting results right here of our swing levels, of our gamma levels. And then under strategy, you'll be able to find the different strategies that we're going to look over it today. So we have our max 7, our future, our momentum strategy, our seasonality strategy. So all the data that I will show in the slide is available for you to read right here. You can access all the different charts, all the different models right there. So everything that we show you is already in the website. So let's go back to this one. So let's look at our first strategy. The first strategy is leveraging our seasonality and momentum score. And we basically looked at a basket of sector ETFs. So the goal is obviously to use the data to outperform the benchmark, which in this case is the S&P 500. Our asset coverage is basically our sector ETF, going from technology to energy and so on. So we use our asset coverage. And basically, we are using our seasonality and our momentum score. The strategy obviously is looking to capitalize on seasonal trends and, of course, to capitalize from short-term momentum, right? So what is the entry and exit condition of the strategy? And all of this can be found on our blog, on our website. So the entry condition is really looking at identifying ETFs with the highest seasonality score, which must be greater or equal to 0. If there are multiple ETFs on the same day, this is like a day trading strategy. So it's like trading once a day. If there are multiple ETFs that have the same score, then we look at the one with the higher average return over the past week. And very simple, we buy at the market open. The commission cost that we account is really $2 per trade, so $4 for both sides. So one is entry, one is the exit, and the exit condition is selling at the market open the next day. And if we obviously if the same ETF results as the top pick for the next day, then in this case we don't just sell, we just keep the position open. And if no ETFs meets the criteria, then no position is taken. Backtesting results from January 1st, 2014 to January 31st. Let's look at here, and let me make this bigger. So here we see the green line is our seasonality strategy. And basically versus the SPX, the return is 439%, which is a 209% excess return over the SPX. We also see like a Sharpe ratio of 0.76 and a Sortino ratio of 1.09. We see a higher drawdown and a little bit higher volatility, but this is kind of like the return for just the seasonality strategy. We also have our strategy 2, which is just using the momentum. So again, the same principle. We identify ETF with the highest difference between today's momentum score and the momentum score 5 days ago. We only consider ETFs that have a positive difference, and if multiple ETFs have the same momentum difference, then we just select the one with the lowest standard deviation of return over the past 3 months. We buy at the market open, we sell at the market open the next day, and if the same ETF remains the top pick, then obviously we keep the position for another day, and if no ETF meets the condition, no position is taken. Again, the same backtesting 10 years from 2014 to 2025. This is the return of the momentum strategy. So we see the SPX at a 229% return, the momentum strategy at a 565.89% return with a Sharpe ratio of 1.04. And with the same kind of volatility of the ETF, of the the SPX. All right, so let's see if we get any question. Does it uses news? No, we don't use news. So the news is not part of the indicator. So no, it's just really looking at data coming from our feeds, our option data, and other data sets that we use. That's a good question. So we assume that the portfolio is $100,000, but I want to show you also, if you go to our blog, we have a more detailed explanation. And if you scroll all the way at the bottom, you can see the sensitivity to initial capital. So this strategy can be used by also lower account size, but obviously you need to account commission costs. So here we show you basically if you had an account size of $10,000, what the performance was, and obviously what it would be if you have a larger account size, because commission costs would have a less impact if you have a higher account size. So you can see everything here as well. Good question, thank you. All right. The next strategy is looking at our max 7. So in this case, we use our momentum score and our seasonality score within the max 7 basket. So the 7 stocks that you see right there. And basically, what this does is we look at max 7 stocks that have a seasonality score greater or equal to 0 and a momentum score greater or equal to 3. We rank the stock based on momentum score and choose the stock with the highest momentum score. And if multiple stocks have the same momentum, then we select the one with the highest average return in the past month. We buy at the open, we sell at the market open the next day, unless the same stock remains in the top pick. And if no stocks meet the criteria, then no position is taken. And again, we did the same back test from 2019 to 2025. And again, this is the results. Everything can be found also on the website. So we had 1971.38% return with a Sharpe ratio of 1.4. The last example for our futures traders is also a strategy based on futures. So in this case, we look at some futures that are experiencing high seasonality. In particular, we look at ES, NQ, CL, GC, and ZN. And the reason is that they typically have a very good seasonality. Some of the other futures do not have a very reflective seasonality, so we only use those in our example. And basically, we look at futures contract with the seasonality score greater than 0. We rank the selected futures based on seasonality and choose the one with the highest score. And if multiple futures have the same seasonality, then we select the one with the highest average return over the past month. We buy at the open, we sell at the market open the next day. And again, if no futures meets the entry condition, then no position is taken. And this is basically another example of those backtests. All right, we're going to pause here for a second, and then let's see if we get some questions. As always, guys, if you like what you saw and you want to join us, here you can find all the details about our promo for this week. So we have our premium plan, our pro plan, and of course, if you join today, you also will receive a bonus, which is access to 2 live training sessions. All right. Next, we're going to talk about our trading integration, and we're going to give you a demo of 2 of our integration. We're going to start with MotiveWave. I'm going to play a very short video showing you the new integration. So this is all the integrations that are available already on MenthorQ. So we have about 9, actually 10. Where we have TradingView, NinjaTrader, Atas, Bookmap, Quant, Sierra, MotiveWave, Thinkorswim, and MetaTrader. Most of those are integrated via API. So MotiveWave is available via API like the others. With TradingView, we are introducing today the auto-updated levels. So I'm going to show you what that looks like and what you can do with it. And then just before we go into the details, these are some of the integration that we're working on. So next on our pipeline, we have TrendSpider, TickBlaze, Trade08, and of course, over the next few months, we're going to also look at other platforms. Like we have had a lot of requests, so we're going to look at that. But next, we're going to go into our MotiveWave, and I'm just going to show you a very short video demo of what the integration looks like.
Hi there folks, I'm Joey and I want to show you how to set up the MotiveWave study for MenthorQ. So after you've downloaded it from your dashboard, which I've already done, I have it right here, I'm going to drag this file into the MotiveWave extensions directory, which should exist if you've already installed MotiveWave. Okay, and then I want to extract the files into this directory. And so what you should end up with are a lib and ext directory, which is necessary for MotiveWave to actually load the study. Okay, so now I'll fire up MotiveWave. Okay, let's maximize this chart. Now, to add the study to your chart, you click on Study, go down to Custom, and you'll see one called MenthorQ now. So I click that. First thing it's going to ask you for is your API key, which you can find by logging into your MenthorQ dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and copy mine in here and click on Create. And so now you can see it added the study onto the chart. So if I right click the study and I click Refresh Price Levels, Now it'll show you the price levels for ES. Next, let's talk about customizing the settings for the study. So if I double click the study, it will fire up the settings for me. So first thing we can look at are the different types of levels that you can plot. By default, the gamma levels are shown. Say I want to also show the blind spots, I can check that box, click apply, and now you can see the blind spots are also being applied onto the chart. Next, let's talk about the label formatting. So now you can go in here and you can change the size of the labels. Say I want to make that 20, and then you can align them either left, right, or center. Let's put these on the left, and then you can really tweak the alignment of the labels on the left and right side if you want to nudge it one way or another. Just click apply for that. Okay, so now it's moved into the left and with a larger font. Now let's talk about the individual level colors themselves. So you can change the colors, the size of the levels, the type of line it is, dashed or dotted, and you can also turn on and off individual levels as well. So you see one day men down here. Say I want to turn that off. I'll just uncheck that, click apply, and now it's gone. Okay, let's turn that back on and let's make it this blue color, a little bit bigger. I can make it dashed, click apply. Okay, so you can do that for every level that is available from MenthorQ. All right, so let's turn that off for a second because I want to show you the overlapping levels. So sometimes levels will overlap each other. So put support 0 TTE are both at the same price level. Now, sometimes these colors and styles conflict each other. So what we've done is we've added an other style, which basically applies to any overlapping levels. So let's make these white and dotted and a little bit bigger. Click apply. Okay, so now you can see all the overlapping levels are styled with this other style that you see here. All right. Now let's talk about conversions. So say I want to plot SPX levels on top of my ES chart. I can type in SPX and give it a ratio. I'm going to keep it as 1 for right now, and then I'll turn that conversion on. Click apply. And there we go. Now we see a whole lot of levels for SPX and for ES being plotted all together. Okay, so let's turn off some of the GEX levels just to clean things up a little bit. So yeah, there you go. So you can see the converted levels are also shown on the chart for ES. Hope that helps.
Awesome. Yeah, let us know, guys. So yes, as we see, the MotiveWave is available for Windows, but we are working on a Mac version. So this will be available very soon, and Joe is working on that. So basically, this shows you the latest integration, but actually what today we have is a very exciting new development on our TradingView indicator. So the TradingView indicator was the first one we developed. So this really was the way of simplifying the data that you see on the chart and bringing it into your TradingView application, right? So all those levels, all those charts, okay, like how can I now make them as actionable as possible? So we created the first indicator, but the problem is that obviously there are some limitations with the TradingView platform, and that there's no like a direct API like we're using for MotiveWave. So the process was really manual. So our users actually had to come in every day, download the levels, upload them into TradingView, and of course worked really well, but it was still a manual process. So what we've done today is we've changed that, and now the levels will automatically update. So the first step is really to come here in your dashboard and go into your TradingView section of the integration. Here, what you will see is the activation, right? So here you need to provide your TradingView ID. You can find your TradingView ID in your profile. So please don't use the email. The ID that we need is this one here, which is your TradingView user ID. Type it into here and click on save and connect. And then once you connect, you'll get access to our invite only scripts right here, and you'll get access to these 4 scripts, the blind spots, the end of day level, and the intraday levels, right? Those are already here in the chart. So right now what I'm seeing is my end of day levels. And as you can see right now, there's no input section. So there's nothing really I need to input here. We have the same functionality as we had before. So we can convert levels from an asset to an asset. So if I want to convert, for example, QQQ levels to Apple, I can simply type it there. I can use an auto ratio, and now you will see that basically my QQQ level will be plotted on my Apple chart. I can do that for anything. I could convert SPX level to Bitcoin. I could convert, like SPX level to ES. So very, very easy. So that functionality is still available. You can also then customize all the different colors and styles. So similar to what we saw in MotiveWave. But the really interesting thing is that now you don't have to input anything. So I can simply type in a ticker, and basically the levels will appear. I can have my watch list, and I can type in an asset, and basically my levels will appear there. I can really have my setup really set up very quickly. So every morning I can be up and running in literally like less than 30 seconds. We also have the same for our intraday levels. So here we have our intraday levels. I haven't updated those, but I can do that. So I would come here, update my intraday levels, and then basically what you will see is you will see an available update. Just click on update to the latest version. And then what we see here is the latest update from our 11:30 Eastern. And again, these are our intraday levels. Click on the ticker. The data will be there. And then, simply, we have futures. Actually, we don't have intraday data on futures. You can have indices. So very, very easy. The levels are right there. We also have blind spots. So you can also update, auto update the blind spots, no manual input. So everything is available for you there. But then we have an actually even better, exciting feature available within the new indicator. This one, we are going to also release it to NinjaTrader over the next few weeks. So for those who are using NinjaTrader, this feature will be available as well. And the feature is called our trading roadmap. So what is a trading roadmap, right? So for those who are scalper, for those who are day traders, typically what you want to look for is areas within the chart that can help you understand where the price can go and can help you define where you want to go in and where you want to go out. So literally, like, you're drawing areas on a chart to basically be able to map the levels or the key areas where you want to trade, right? So if I connect these gamma levels right there, I can quickly find areas that I'm interested in looking for. So maybe I'm interested for a rebound, maybe trading from HVL to HVL, or maybe I want to look for a reversal. So if I trade my core resistance, I know that when we get to this area, there's going to be a reaction, right? So if I remove now the indicator, then this is like how my areas have been drawn simply by doing that manually, right? Now this is not necessarily anymore. We can go back to our levels, and I can now go to the trading roadmap section of the indicator. I can create my roadmap. I can assign it a color. So let's say I want to do it yellow, for example. And basically, I can also define a ratio. So I can define how close those levels wants to be, because maybe I want to have a wider range, or maybe like I'm more like a string trader and I want to use a different area. And then basically what you can also do is you can actually now hide the levels. So basically, what you see is exactly the same drawing that we did manually. Now it's all plotted here automatically. So those are defining the areas where you might want to be in the market, or you might want to stay out of the market. And then this could also become your profit target. And simply by selecting tick box here under create roadmap, I can enable that feature. And then basically I can use my gamma levels to be able to define an entry or an exit strategy for my trading. All right, let's see if we get any more questions. So to go back, basically, the steps are very simple. Come to the TradingView section, provide your TradingView account, and then wait a few seconds, and then you'll be able to access the indicators under the invite only section. If you don't see that, try removing and adding the indicator, try refreshing or clearing the cache, because that typically solves the problem of the browser. Very good questions. Yes, the swing levels indicator will be released very soon, so you'll have the same capability. Absolutely. Yeah, so swing trading is coming soon. We're still doing some changes there, so that will be available as well. All right, this is a very good question. So for new members, what is the best way to backtest the level on our desired asset? So basically, if you want to access history, the best way would be to come back to our dashboard. You can add your TradingView levels right here, and then you can go back in time whenever you want to backtest, and you can basically simply copy this text into the old indicator. So I can simply come here and go on to the premium indicator that you still have access to, and just paste the levels, and then you can kind of backtest those historically. That would be the best way. All right, so let's see if we get more questions. I think we went through a lot today, but the goal is really to show you guys like how we started, what's the approach, why is that relevant for anyone who's like approaching the trading world to be able to be actionable. And then this week, we're also gonna have a lot of live sessions. So for those who follow us on YouTube, this week, we're going to focus on how to actually use these models and this data to be actionable on different trading strategies. So we're going to, after this session in about 45 minutes, we're going to be live with Patrick and Sherry, and we're going to show how Sherry is using this data for futures and option trading. Tomorrow, we're going to be live with Doc. If you guys want to learn on how to use the models for trading zero DT options, that's a really good session. Doc is amazing, one of the best in the market. We're going to have a macro update, and we're going to look at futures with Tim. Again, Tim is incredible. Every week, we provide really actionable macro insights, so don't miss that. And then we're going to be live training on Wednesday. On Thursday, actually on Wednesday, we're also going to talk about quant strategies. So we're going to be live with Jason from PyQuant News. We're going to talk about building a systematic strategy using Python and our gamma levels. And then we're going to be back with Doc on Thursday, and then to look about options, how to create spread strategies, how to trade zero DT options. And then we're going to also be live with Ryan. Ryan is an ex-market maker, so we're going to look at volatility. We're going to look at SKEW. We're going to look at volatility smile, and also please come and send us all the questions that you have, because we're going to put you in contact with somebody who's been market making in his career. And then on Friday, we're going to close the week with Nicola. Nicola is a beginner trader, so we're going to show you how a beginner trader we start using MenthorQ and how they've been able to be successful by doing that. So there's going to be a lot of live session this week, guys. All right. So again, for those, we're gonna spend more time if we guys have more questions. You can also find us directly in Discord. So we're gonna answer some Q&A later today. But basically, like, if you guys want to join us, if you want to join us, thousands of traders that are actually actively using our data to be successful, please, this is kind of like the best promotion that we've done so far since last year. So we're very excited. A lot of new tools. I think this is going to be a game changer. Our Q score is definitely going to be incredible, and all our integration are also going to be key for being actionable in the market. So this week we're going to show you how to be actionable. We're also going to do some live trading, so stay tuned. But for those, again, if you have any questions, please send us an email. Reach out, come to our website. You can reach out directly to us at info@mentorq.com. And then, yeah, let us know. Let us give us some feedback. Let us know how it was. Let's see. Can you please show again how to update charts intraday? Sure, no problem. So it's very, very simple. So once you get access to the indicator, you simply would come here, go in the invite only, and just click on the indicator. Give it a few seconds, and then you will receive a message. So updates available. Just update this to the latest version, and then click on a stock. And then now here you will see the timestamp. So we have our 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and then simply go through your watch list. So all the levels will be there for you. Yeah, so you can delete it, apply it, or if you receive a pop-up with an update, just update it, right? Other questions, can we only plot the primary level on the intraday indicator? Absolutely, you can remove all the levels that you don't want to plot right here. All right. So again, guys, we're going to be live in about 45 minutes. We're going to be live with Patrick and Sherry. Again, we're going to give you some use cases. And that should help you also understand how other traders that are very profitable use the data. So don't miss that. It's going to be live in about 42 minutes. And let's see. Let me know if you have more questions. Yeah, and if you have any issues with the indicators, just send us an email on Discord or a message, and we'll take care of that after the session. No problem. All right. I think is there a link? Yeah, let me send the link. 1 second. Just give me 1 second, guys. Okay, so the link to sign up, I just posted it here. And if you guys want to follow the different session, everything is recorded here on our YouTube channel. So just simply come to our YouTube channel, and basically all the session will be here. So everything is recorded. Let me just send you the link as well, guys. Thank you so much, Herb, and thank you for joining all our session. Thank you. All right. Do I need to update for each intraday update or just once per day? So what will happen is you will see an update here once the new levels are out for a new snapshot, and you can just click on update or simply remove and add the indicator. If you want to change the levels, otherwise you can keep the levels of one snapshot for throughout the day, no problem. Thank you, Ahmad. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And as we said, for those who are using Ninja, the roadmap feature will also come to Ninja very soon. So, hi, Mark. Yeah, you cannot find the indicator because you need to enable it. And to be able to do that, you need to go into your dashboard right here, type your TradingView ID, where you see it right there. And then basically you'll find it under invite only. So they're not public. You can only get access if you enable your account right here. All right. So thank you guys for joining. There's a lot of people that were connecting, and thank you for staying with us for all this time. As always, if you have questions, please send us an email, info@mentorq.com. Everything can be found on our website. If you go to our pricing page, you'll be able to access our promo. So we have obviously a great offer for you guys if you want to join. Everybody who joins today or upgrades today will also get access to 2 live trading sessions with one of our pro trader, and we will also be trading live this week on Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. Everything can also be found on our YouTube channel or our sessions. We're gonna have a packed week, but really, guys, thank you for joining us. And if you want to be part of our mailing list, just create a free account. You get access to a lot of free tools, and you can be part of our mailing list as well. Have a good day and see you back in about 35 minutes. Have a great day, guys.